The massive ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It was 3 kilometers long, shaped like a crescent moon, and covered in strange, glowing symbols. Inside the vessel, Ambassador Thelva stood before the viewing screen with confidence. His blue skin reflected the light from Earth below, and his forearms moved in practiced gestures of authority. "Another primitive world," he said to his crew. "This will be simple. We offer them basic technology, they bow in gratitude, and we add another protected species to the council." His second officer nodded, checking the scanners. "Their technology level is quite low, Ambassador. Basic fusion reactors, early FTL experiments, simple kinetic weapons. They are barely past their industrial age." Thelva smiled. The Veltharian Empire had done this hundreds of times before. They were the oldest civilization in the galaxy, the founders of the Galactic Council, and it was their duty to guide younger races into the stars. Earth would be no different. "Open a communication channel," Thelvas commanded. "Let us introduce ourselves to these humans." The response came faster than expected. A calm male voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, the universal language of space. "Veltharian vessel, this is Commander Jehoon of the Terran Space Defense Fleet. Welcome to Earth. Please transmit your flight plan, and we will escort you to the designated landing zone." Thelvas blinked all 6 of his eyes in surprise. "They speak galactic standard, and they have a space defense fleet?" "Perhaps they learned it from stolen transmissions," his second officer suggested. "And the defense fleet is probably just satellites with primitive weapons." The ambassador nodded, though something felt strange. "Very well. Transmit our flight plan." Within minutes, 6 sleek ships appeared around the Veltharian vessel. They were smaller, painted in dark gray, and moved with precision. Thelvas noticed they maintained perfect formation, never wavering even slightly. The ships guided them down to a massive city filled with towers of glass and steel. As the Veltharian delegation stepped out of their shuttle, they were greeted by a human in a dark blue uniform. He was tall by human standards, with black hair and calm eyes. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "Ambassador Thelvas," the human said, "I am Commander Jehoon. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, welcome to Sol. President Minseo is waiting to meet you." Thelvas looked around the landing platform. It was clean, organized, and surrounded by technology that seemed more advanced than his initial scan suggested. Strange aircraft moved silently overhead, and the buildings were covered in energy fields he recognized as atmospheric shields. "Your city is quite developed," Thelvas said carefully. "More than we expected." Jehoon smiled politely. "We do our best. Please follow me. The diplomatic complex is nearby." As they walked through the streets, Thelvas and his team observed everything. Humans moved about their lives with casual ease. Holographic displays showed news and information. Vehicles floated on anti-gravity systems. Children played in parks surrounded by security drones that looked almost artistic in their design. "This is not a primitive civilization," whispered one of Thelvas's officers. "These technologies should not be possible for a species so young." The diplomatic complex was enormous, a building of white stone and flowing water features. Inside, they were led to a grand hall where an older human woman waited. She wore simple but elegant clothing, and her gray hair was tied back neatly. She stood with perfect posture, radiating quiet authority. "Ambassador Thelvas," she said, bowing the same way Jehoon had. "I am President Minseo. Thank you for coming to our world." Thelvas performed the traditional Veltharian greeting, raising all 4 arms. "President Minseo, it is our honor. The Galactic Council has watched your world from afar, and we believe humanity is ready to join the greater cosmic community." "That is very generous," Minseo replied, gesturing for them to sit at a large circular table. "Please tell us about this Galactic Council." For the next hour, Thelvas explained the structure of galactic civilization. He spoke of the Council's 12 founding species, the trade networks that connected thousands of worlds, and the laws that maintained peace across the stars. He described humanity's potential place as a protected junior member, a status given to all new species. "We would provide you with defensive technology, Thelvas continued, warming to his subject. Shield generators to protect your cities, advanced medical knowledge to cure diseases, and guidance in expanding to new worlds. In exchange, you would follow council law and contribute a small portion of your resources to the common good. President Minseo listened carefully, her expression neutral. When Thelvas finished, she looked to a woman sitting beside her. This human was younger, wearing a white coat over her formal clothes, and she held a data tablet in her hands. Dr. Hiwan, Minseo said, "Your thoughts?" The scientist adjusted her glasses and smiled politely. The shield technology Ambassador Thelvas describes appears to be based on layered plasma field generation, correct? Thelvas nodded, impressed. You understand the principle. Most new species require years of study before they grasp even the basics. We developed similar technology about 30 years ago, Hiwan said casually. Our current shield systems use quantum-locked barrier fields instead. They are more energy efficient and can withstand impacts up to 15 terajoules. The room went very quiet. Thelvas felt his confidence waver. 15 terajoules was far beyond what Council standard shields could handle. That was military grade. Defensive technology possessed only by the oldest Council species. I see, Thelvas said slowly. And the medical knowledge we mentioned? Hiwan scrolled through her tablet. We appreciate the offer, but humanity has already eliminated most diseases through genetic therapy and nanomedicine. Our average lifespan is currently 140 years, and we are working to extend it further. Another officer in Thelvas's delegation checked his own data. He looked up with confusion. Ambassador, their lifespan exceeds ours by 20 years. President Minseo folded her hands on the table. Ambassador Thelvas, we are grateful for your visit and your generous offers. However, I think there may have been some misunderstanding about Earth's development level. Perhaps we should show you more of our world before we discuss membership terms. Thelvas agreed, though his mind was racing. Something was very wrong with the intelligence reports. This was not a primitive civilization taking its first steps into space. These humans possessed technology that rivaled or exceeded Council standards. But how? And why had they never been detected before? That evening, as Thelvas stood in his guest quarters looking out at the glowing city below, he watched spacecraft rise into the night sky with quiet precision. Each one moved with the confidence of a civilization that had been traveling the stars for a very long time. Second officer, he spoke into his communicator, run a complete scan of this planet and the surrounding space. I want to know exactly what we are dealing with. Yes, Ambassador, came the reply. Though I should mention something strange. Our long-range sensors detected debris fields in orbit that match the composition of combat wreckage. It is very old, perhaps several hundred years. But the energy signatures suggest weapons technology far more advanced than anything in our current arsenal. Thelvas felt a chill run down his spine. How many debris fields? There was a long pause. Thousands, sir, spread across this entire star system. The ambassador looked up at the stars, and for the first time in his long career, he felt truly uncertain about what he had discovered. The morning sun rose over Seoul, painting the city in shades of gold and orange. Ambassador Thelvas had not slept well. His mind kept returning to the debris fields, the advanced shields, and the quiet confidence of the humans he had met. Nothing about this first contact was proceeding according to standard protocol. Commander Jihoon arrived early to escort them to the day's meetings. He wore the same dark blue uniform, perfectly pressed, and his expression remained polite but unreadable. As they walked through the diplomatic complex, Thelvas decided to test the waters. Commander, how long has humanity been traveling in space? He asked. Jihoon considered the question. That depends on your definition of space travel. Our first orbital satellite was launched over 200 years ago. Our first colony ship departed Earth 160 years ago. 160 years? Thelvas repeated. That is quite rapid development. Most species require at least 300 years to establish their first colony. Humans are persistent, Jihoon replied with a slight smile. When we want something, we work very hard to achieve it. They entered a large conference room where President Minseo waited along with several other humans. Telvas recognized Dr. Haiwan from the previous day. There was also a military officer with silver hair and sharp eyes, his uniform decorated with numerous medals. "Ambassador," Minseo said, gesturing to the officer. "This is Captain Daehyun. He commands our orbital defense network. He will be giving you a tour of our facilities today." Daehyun saluted in the human style, his fist over his heart. "It will be my honor, Ambassador. I think you will find our operations quite interesting." Before the tour began, Telvas felt obligated to address the main issue. He stood formally and raised all four arms in the gesture of serious negotiation. "President Minseo, I must discuss the terms of Earth's membership in the Galactic Council. As I explained yesterday, new species are given protected junior status for their first century of membership. This ensures proper guidance and prevents costly mistakes." Minseo's expression did not change. "We appreciate your concern, Ambassador, but Earth is not interested in protected status. We would prefer a full partnership with equal voting rights." "That is not possible," Telvas said firmly. "No species in galactic history has been granted immediate full membership. The rules exist for good reason." "Then perhaps Earth will remain independent for now," Minseo replied calmly. "We are quite comfortable managing our own affairs." Telvas felt frustration rising. These humans did not understand how the galaxy worked. They were acting like they had options, like they could survive without council protection. It was foolish and dangerous. "President Minseo, you do not understand the threats that exist in space. There are hostile empires, pirates, resource conflicts. The Council provides safety and stability. Without it, Earth would be vulnerable." For the first time, Minseo's calm expression shifted slightly. Not to fear, as Telvas expected, but to something that looked almost like amusement. "Ambassador, I assure you that Earth can defend itself, but perhaps you should see our capabilities before we continue this discussion. Captain Daehyun, please begin the tour." The tour started with a shuttle flight to Mars. Telvas and his team boarded a human transport vessel, noting its smooth design and quiet engines. The journey took only 3 hours, far faster than Veltharian ships could manage. Mars was nothing like Telvas expected. The planet's surface was covered with domed cities connected by underground tunnels. Orbital stations hung in space like metal moons, and countless ships moved in organized traffic patterns. Captain Daehyun guided them to what he called a standard manufacturing facility. The building was enormous, stretching for kilometers in every direction. Inside, robotic systems assembled components with perfect precision. Telvas watched as the hull of a massive spacecraft took shape before his eyes. "This is just one of 15 facilities," Daehyun explained. "We produce approximately 40 warships per month across all locations." Telvas stared at the captain. 40 warships per month? That is impossible. The Veltharian Empire produces perhaps 20 per year, and we are one of the largest military powers in the galaxy. Daehyun nodded. "Human manufacturing systems are highly automated. We have found it efficient." A young human in an engineering uniform approached them. She bowed quickly and smiled at the group. "Captain Daehyun, the new batch is ready for quality testing. Should I run the standard checks?" "Yes, Engineer Suman, proceed as normal." Suman turned to leave but paused when she noticed the alien visitors. "Oh, are these our new friends from space? Welcome. Are you here to see the colony coordination systems too?" "Colony coordination?" Telvas asked. "Sure," Suman said cheerfully. "We have 47 colony worlds now, plus about 200 smaller settlements. The logistics are complicated, but we manage. Anyway, nice to meet you." She hurried off to her work. Telvas's second officer checked his data tablet with shaking hands. "Ambassador, our empire has only 12 colonies after 3,000 years of expansion. How can a species this young have 47? Captain Daehyun overheard the question. "Humans reproduce quickly and adapt well to different environments. When we find a habitable world, we settle it. The population grows and soon it is ready to send out its own colony ships. The process accelerates over time." The tour continued to Earth's orbital defense platforms. These were massive stations, armed with weapons that made Telvas deeply uncomfortable. Captain Daehyun explained each system with casual professionalism, as if describing furniture rather than instruments of war. These are rail cannons capable of accelerating projectiles to 15% light speed, Daehyun said, pointing to one weapon system. The laser batteries can maintain sustained fire for 6 hours without overheating. And these are our missile clusters, each carrying 60 warheads with adaptive targeting. How many of these platforms orbit Earth? Thelvis asked quietly. 240, Daehyun replied. Each one can operate independently or coordinate with the others for defensive coverage. We also have mobile fleet assets, of course, but those are currently on patrol routes. Thelvis did not ask how many ships were in those fleets. He was not sure he wanted to know. Back on Earth, they were taken to a research facility where Dr. Hyewan gave a presentation on human technology. She spoke about their FTL drives, which used quantum tunnel generation instead of the dimensional folding that Council ships employed. Her presentation included efficiency comparisons showing that human drives were 3 times faster and used half the energy. We developed this system about 40 years ago, Hyewan explained. Before that, we used a more primitive folding method similar to yours. The quantum tunneling approach is much more elegant. She continued with medical technology, materials science, energy generation, and computational systems. In every category, human technology met or exceeded Council standards. Some of it was so advanced that Thelvis's own scientists struggled to understand the basic principles. When the presentation ended, Thelvis sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, he looked at President Minseo with genuine confusion. I do not understand, he said. Our intelligence indicated that Earth was a primitive world. We have observed you from a distance for decades, and nothing suggested this level of advancement. How is this possible? Minseo exchanged glances with Daehyun and Hyewan. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Finally, she spoke carefully. Ambassador, humanity has learned that it is sometimes wise to be underestimated. We have been very careful about what signals we broadcast into space and what activities we conduct in visible locations. You were hiding, Thelvis said, deliberately hiding your true capabilities. We were being cautious, Minseo corrected. The universe is large and full of unknowns. We thought it prudent to learn about our neighbors before announcing our presence. That evening, Thelvis's second officer approached him with a datapad and a worried expression. Ambassador, you need to see this. I ran a deep scan of Earth's defensive satellites as you ordered. Thelvis looked at the data and felt his blood go cold. The numbers were staggering. Earth's orbital defenses alone possessed enough firepower to destroy a dozen planets. The energy signatures suggested weapon systems that could crack continental plates or boil oceans. This was not the arsenal of a young species learning to defend itself. This was the arsenal of a civilization prepared for galactic war. Contact the Veltharian High Command, Thelvis ordered. Tell them we need to reevaluate everything we know about humanity. This is not a first contact situation. This is something else entirely. As his officer rushed to send the message, Thelvis looked out at Earth's surface far below. Somewhere on that planet, humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their existence had just shaken the foundations of galactic politics. Or, perhaps Thelvis thought with growing unease, they were very aware indeed. Ambassador Thelvis requested an emergency meeting with President Minseo. The human leader agreed immediately, and within an hour they sat across from each other in a private conference room. The walls were soundproof, and no guards or assistants were present. Just the two leaders and the weight of questions that needed answers. President Minseo, Thelvis began, his voice tight with controlled frustration. I need the truth. Our scans reveal that Earth possesses military capabilities that exceed most Council member states. Your orbital defenses alone could devastate multiple worlds. This is not the profile of a species making first contact. So I ask you directly, who are you really? Minseo sat quietly for a moment, her hands folded on the table. Then she pressed a button on a small device. A holographic display appeared between them, showing star charts and tactical information. You are correct, Ambassador. We have not been entirely honest about our history. But before I explain, I think you should understand the full scope of what humanity has built. Would you like a complete briefing on our military forces? Telvis felt his heart beating faster. Yes, I believe that would be appropriate. Minseo touched the device again. A door opened, and a tall human woman entered, wearing a military uniform even more decorated than Captain Daehyun's. Her hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes held the look of someone who had commanded forces in actual combat. This is Admiral Jiwon, Minseo said. She oversees all Terran defense forces. Admiral, please give the ambassador our standard external briefing. Jiwon saluted and activated her own holographic display. Ambassador Thelvas, humanity currently maintains 2,000 combat-ready warships across our territory. These vessels range from Corvette-class scouts to Dreadnought-class battleships. Our largest vessels are 3 kilometers in length and carry crews of 8,000. She zoomed the display to show ship classifications and capabilities. Thelvas compared the numbers mentally to Veltharian forces. 2,000 ships was more than the entire Veltharian battle fleet. Much more. We maintain defensive installations on 53 worlds, Jiwon continued. Each installation includes orbital platforms, ground-based weapons, and rapid response fleets. Our weapons technology includes plasma cannons, antimatter missiles, kinetic kill vehicles, and directed energy systems. Our ships use adaptive armor that can redistribute mass to reinforce damaged sections. Why? Thelvas interrupted. Why does a species supposedly making first contact need such overwhelming military power? Jiwon looked at Minseo, who nodded. The Admiral took a breath before responding. Because we have seen what happens to species that cannot defend themselves, Ambassador. We have seen it many times. The statement hung in the air like a physical weight. Thelvas felt pieces of a puzzle beginning to form in his mind, but the picture was still unclear. Admiral Jiwon, when did humanity achieve faster-than-light travel? He asked carefully. Our first successful FTL test was conducted 178 years ago, Jiwon replied. But that was not our first attempt. We had been researching the technology for decades before that success. The numbers did not add up. Thelvas had reviewed the Council's observation records of Earth. They showed a species that had only recently developed nuclear power and was still decades away from FTL capability, unless you have been masking your true development level for a very long time, Thelvas said. How long have you really been in space, Admiral? Minseo raised a hand before Jiwon could answer. That is a complicated question, Ambassador. Perhaps it would be better to show you rather than tell you. Would you be willing to visit one of our outer facilities? I think I need to see everything, Thelvas replied. They traveled on a human warship named the Defender, a sleek vessel that moved through space faster than anything in the Veltharian fleet. The journey took them beyond Earth's solar system, past several colony worlds, and into a region of space that the Council had marked as uninhabited. It was not uninhabited. A massive station hung in the darkness, shaped like a wheel with 12 spokes. Ships moved around it in constant motion, and sensor arrays pointed in every direction. As they approached, Thelvas saw defense platforms that made Earth's orbital weapons look small by comparison. This is Outpost Sentry, Admiral Jiwon explained. One of 16 deep space monitoring stations that watch the approaches to human territory. We built the first one 130 years ago. They docked with the station and were greeted by a stern-looking military officer who introduced himself as General Taejin. He led them through corridors filled with personnel operating advanced equipment. Holographic displays showed real-time data from hundreds of star systems. General Taejin, Thelvas said. Admiral Jiwon mentioned that humanity has seen what happens to species that cannot defend themselves. What did she mean? Taejin stopped walking and turned to face the ambassador. She meant that we have been watching the galaxy for a long time, Ambassador. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have seen peaceful species destroyed by aggressive neighbors. We have seen wars that killed billions. And we decided that humanity would never be caught unprepared. When did you start watching? Thelvas asked. That is classified information, Taejin replied. But I can tell you this. We never expanded beyond our local space because we were waiting to see if anyone else was out here first. We needed to understand the political situation, the major powers, the threats. We needed to know if it was safe to reveal ourselves. They were taken to a command center where dozens of operators monitored sensor data. One young officer looked up from her console and noticed the visitors. She stood quickly and saluted. "General Tajin, the scheduled patrol has returned. They report no unusual activity in sectors 9 through 12. "Thank you, Lieutenant Hanul. Maintain standard monitoring protocols." After the officer returned to her work, Thelvis asked, "What are your patrols looking for?" "Threats," Tajin said simply. "Pirates, rogue AI, unknown species, spatial anomalies.
Anything that might pose a danger to our worlds or our people. The Council patrols handle such matters in civilized space,"
Thelvis pointed out. "The Council patrols are insufficient," Tajin replied bluntly. "No offense intended, Ambassador. But your forces are spread thin and often arrive too late to prevent disasters. We prefer to be proactive." Thelvis was about to respond when something on one of the displays caught his attention. It was a tactical analysis showing threat assessment data. The information was detailed and recent, covering dozens of star systems including several in Veltharian space. "You have been monitoring Council territory," Thelvis said, his voice rising. "You have been spying on us." "We have been watching everyone," Tajin corrected. "It is not personal, Ambassador. We watch all major powers to ensure they do not pose a threat to humanity. We also watch for threats that might harm them, and we respond when necessary." "What does that mean, you respond when necessary?" General Tajin walked to a secure terminal and entered a series of codes. A new holographic display appeared, showing historical data going back several hundred years. Thelvis recognized some of the events shown: battles, invasions, mysterious disappearances of hostile forces. 800 years ago, the Scourge invaded this region of space, Tajin said. "You know this history, Ambassador. The Scourge were a machine intelligence that consumed everything in their path. They destroyed hundreds of worlds before being mysteriously repelled." "Yes," Thelvis said slowly. "The Scourge War is legendary. The Council believes the Scourge were defeated by unknown forces, possibly an ancient civilization that no longer exists. The unknown forces were human ships," Tajin said quietly. "We were here, Ambassador. We fought the Scourge. We stopped them from reaching Council space." The room seemed to tilt around Thelvis. 800 years ago, humanity should have been medieval by their own historical records. They should not have existed in space at all. "That is impossible," Thelvis whispered. "It is the truth," Minseo said, stepping forward. "Humanity has been a spacefaring civilization for over 1,000 years, Ambassador. We achieved FTL travel in the year 892 by Earth reckoning. We explored quietly, learned carefully, and when we found a galaxy at war, we chose to remain hidden. We have been protecting this region of space ever since, fighting threats that the Council never even knew existed." Thelvis felt his legs weaken. He sat down heavily in the nearest chair, his mind struggling to process the revelation. 1,000 years. Humanity had been in space for 1,000 years, and the Council had never known. "The Veltharian Empire," Thelvis said suddenly. 400 years ago, we were almost destroyed by the Krython invasion. Our forces were overwhelmed, our worlds were burning. Then the Krython fleet vanished overnight. We searched for wreckage but found nothing. "You found nothing because we removed all evidence," Admiral Jiwan said. "A human battle group intercepted the Krython fleet and destroyed it completely. We did not want you to know we existed, so we eliminated all traces of the battle." "You saved us," Thelvis said. "You saved my entire species, and we never knew." "We have saved many species," Minseo said. "We are not conquerors, Ambassador. We are not interested in ruling the galaxy or imposing our will on others, but we will not stand by and watch civilizations be destroyed when we have the power to prevent it." Thelvis looked up at the humans surrounding him. They were not primitive newcomers to space. They were not even equals to the Council. They were something far more powerful, a force that had shaped galactic history from the shadows for centuries. "Why reveal yourselves now?" he asked. "After 1,000 years of secrecy, why contact the Council now?" President Minseo's expression grew grave. "Because something worse than the Scourge is coming, Ambassador. Something that will require every civilization in the galaxy to work together. And for that to happen, you needed to know the truth about humanity." The neutral meeting station floated in deep space, far from any inhabited system. It was a human construction, built specifically for this conversation. Ambassador Thelvis had insisted on bringing the full Galactic Council leadership, and President Minseo had agreed. Now representatives from 12 different species gathered in a circular chamber, all of them staring at the humans with expressions ranging from fear to anger to fascination. Thelva stood at the center of the room, his forearms raised for attention. Leaders of the Council, what I am about to tell you will seem impossible. 3 weeks ago, I made contact with Earth expecting to find a primitive species. Instead, I discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about this region of space. He activated a holographic display showing the data his teams had gathered. Ship numbers, weapon capabilities, colony locations, technological achievements. The Council members reacted with increasing alarm as the information continued. "This cannot be accurate," said Council Speaker Vexton, a reptilian leader from the Saurian Federation. "No species could hide such capabilities from our long-range sensors." "They did not hide," Thelvas replied. "They simply chose not to reveal themselves. And they are far older than we believed." President Minseo stepped forward, flanked by Admiral Jiwan and several other humans. "Council leaders, my name is President Minseo of the Terran Republic. I am here to tell you the complete truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. What you are about to hear may be difficult to accept, but every word is verifiable." She gestured to a younger human in a historian's uniform. "This is Historical Officer Seojin. He will present the evidence." Seojin activated his own display, showing ancient star charts and battle records. Humanity achieved faster-than-light travel in the Earth year 892, which was 1,133 years ago by your current calendar. Our early explorers discovered a galaxy divided by war. The major powers fought constantly, and smaller species were caught between them. We made a decision to remain hidden, to observe and learn before making our presence known. "A wise decision," muttered one of the council members. "For centuries we watched." Seojin continued. "We established colonies on worlds you had marked as uninhabitable. We developed our technology independently, without the restrictions and compromises that council law requires. And when threats emerged that endangered civilized space, we responded." The display shifted to show records from the Scourge War, 800 years in the past. Video footage appeared, grainy but clear enough, showing human ships engaging massive machine vessels. The footage was unmistakably real. "You fought the Scourge," Vexton said, his voice barely a whisper. "The unknown forces that saved us." "That was humanity?" "Yes," Seojin confirmed. "We lost 68 ships and 43,000 personnel in that war. We stopped the Scourge from reaching Council space, and then we erased all evidence of our involvement." More records appeared. Battle after battle, crisis after crisis, stretching back centuries. Human forces intervening to stop invasions, eliminate pirate fleets, prevent genocides. Always operating in secret, always cleaning up afterward, never claiming credit. 400 years ago, Seojin said, the Veltharian Empire faced extinction from the Krethon invasion. A human battle group destroyed the Krethon fleet and removed all evidence of the battle. 150 years ago, the Saurian Federation suffered a plague that threatened to kill billions. Human medical teams developed a cure and delivered it anonymously through what you believed was a natural mutation of the disease. He paused, letting the information sink in. There are dozens more examples. For over 1,000 years, humanity has been protecting this region of space without asking for recognition or reward. Council Speaker Vexton stood slowly, his expression complex. Why? Why go to such lengths to protect species you had never even met? President Minseo answered, because we believe that intelligent life is precious, because we have the power to help, and we believe that power comes with responsibility, and because we hope that one day the galaxy would be ready for peace. We wanted that future to be possible. But now you reveal yourselves, Vexton said. After all this time, why now? Admiral Jiwan stepped forward, her expression grim. Because the galaxy faces a threat that we cannot fight alone. Something is coming that will require every civilization to work together. She activated a new display showing sensor data from the edge of known space. The readings were disturbing, showing massive energy signatures moving toward the galactic rim. 6 years ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual readings from beyond the galaxy, Jiwan explained. We sent scout ships to investigate. What they found was an invasion force unlike anything we have encountered before. We call them the Voidborn. The display showed images of alien vessels, enormous and twisted, covered in strange organic material that seemed to pulse with dark energy. They moved through space in vast swarms, consuming everything in their path. The Voidborn are not a civilization, Jiwan continued. They are a force of nature, a plague that devours entire galaxies. They do not negotiate. They do not communicate. They simply consume. And they are heading toward our galaxy. How long do we have? Asked a council member from the Crystalline Accord. 5 years, Jiwan replied. Maybe less. Their vanguard forces will reach the outer colonies within that time. Their main fleet will follow soon after. The council chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Species argued in their native languages, voices rising in panic. Thelvas raised all forearms again, calling for order. President Minseo, he said formally, what does humanity propose? We propose an alliance, Minseo replied. Not the old system where young species serve older ones. Not the council's hierarchy of protected members and senior powers. A true alliance of equals, united against a common enemy. And if the council refuses, Vexton asked carefully, then humanity will withdraw to defend our own territory. Minseo said, we have the strength to survive what is coming. But the council does not. Your combined fleets number perhaps 20,000 ships. The Voidborn have millions. Without humanity's help, you will be destroyed. The truth of her words hung heavy in the air. Several council members looked angry at the implied threat, but none could dispute the mathematics. They had seen the data on human military capabilities. They knew she was not bluffing. You expect us to simply accept your dominance? Demanded a member from the Avian Assembly. To bow before human power? We expect nothing, Minseo replied calmly. We offer partnership. Share your knowledge, combine your forces, coordinate your defenses. Humanity will provide technology, ships, and training. But we will not rule you. That has never been our goal. Thelvas considered carefully before speaking. You say you have 50,000 warships in active service. Is this accurate? That is our current operational fleet, Admiral Jiwan confirmed. We have the production capacity to increase that number significantly if needed. And you would commit these forces to defending Council space? We would commit them to defending the entire galaxy, Jiwan said. Every inhabited world, whether Council member or not. That is what we have always done. President Minseo gestured to another human in military uniform. This is Fleet Coordinator Yunji. She oversees humanity's strategic operations from our command facility on Earth. Yunji, please explain the current situation. Yunji was younger than the other senior officers, but her eyes held the focused intensity of someone who rarely slept. Council leaders, humanity has been monitoring the Voidborn approach for 6 years. We have wargamed hundreds of scenarios. We know their tactics, their weaknesses, and what it will take to stop them. We have begun building new weapon systems specifically designed to counter their technology. But we need your help. What kind of help? Asked Vexton. Resource sharing, Yunji replied. The Voidborn consume matter to fuel their advance. We need to deny them those resources by evacuating vulnerable worlds and preparing fortified defensive lines. We need your manufacturing capacity to accelerate ship production. We need your personnel to crew those ships. And we need your knowledge because the Voidborn have weaknesses we may not have discovered yet. She pulled up tactical maps, showing proposed defensive lines and fallback positions. If we work together, we can stop them at the Galactic Rim. If we do not, they will sweep through inhabited space like a wave of destruction. The council chamber fell silent as the leaders absorbed the information. Finally, Thelvas spoke again. I have one more question, he said. Why did humanity develop such overwhelming military power? Not just to defend yourselves, but enough to protect the entire galaxy? That level of commitment requires more than caution. It requires purpose. President Minseo looked at him with an expression that was sad and determined in equal measure. Because we learned from our own history, Ambassador. On Earth, before we reached the stars, our species nearly destroyed itself in wars and conflicts. We know what it means to fail, to let fear and hatred consume you. When we reached space and found a galaxy at war, we made a choice. We would be the guardians that we wished someone had been for us. We would protect those who could not protect themselves. And we would work toward a day when the galaxy no longer needed guardians at all. She looked around at all the council members. That day has not come yet. The Voidborn are proof that the universe is still dangerous, still full of threats. But if we stand together, if we fight together, then maybe we can survive long enough to see that better future. That is what humanity is offering you. Not dominance, not control, just a chance to survive and build something better. Council Speaker Vexton stood again, his decision made. The Galactic Council will need to vote on this alliance. But I believe I speak for many when I say that we would be fools to refuse. Humanity has protected us for centuries without asking for anything. Perhaps it is time we stood beside you instead of behind you. Other council members nodded in agreement. The vote would come later, but the outcome was already clear. The galaxy was about to change forever. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species packed the circular hall, along with observers from dozens of independent worlds. News of humanity's revelation had spread across civilized space within days, causing panic, anger, and heated debate. Now the Council would vote on the most important decision in galactic history. Ambassador Thelva stood at his designated position, watching President Minseo enter the chamber accompanied by a small human delegation. She walked with quiet dignity, showing no concern about the hostile stares from several council members. Behind her came Admiral Jiwan and a woman Thelvas had not met before, younger and dressed in diplomatic attire. Council Speaker Vexton called the session to order. We are here to vote on the proposed alliance between the Galactic Council and the Terran Republic. Before we begin, humanity has requested the opportunity to address this body. I recognize Ambassador Yuna of Earth. The young woman stepped forward, and Thelvas realized she was humanity's first official ambassador to the Council. She bowed respectfully to the assembled leaders and began speaking in clear, confident tones. Honored Council members, I stand before you not as a conqueror or a superior, but as a representative of humanity offering partnership in the face of a common threat. I understand that many of you feel betrayed by our secrecy. Some of you are angry that we possessed such power while allowing you to believe you were the galaxy's dominant civilizations. These feelings are valid, and I will not dismiss them. Several council members nodded, their expressions softening slightly. But I ask you to consider what humanity could have done with our capabilities. Yuna continued. We could have conquered this galaxy centuries ago. We had the ships, the weapons, and the technology. Yet we chose peace. We chose to protect rather than dominate. We chose to give you the chance to develop your own societies, your own cultures, without interference from a hidden power. She activated a holographic display showing the void-born threat approaching the galaxy. Now we ask you to stand with us. Not beneath us, but beside us. The Voidborn do not care about politics or pride. They will destroy everything in their path unless we stop them together. And if we refuse? Demanded Ambassador Drexen of the Korgoth Empire, his voice dripping with hostility. If we tell humanity to return to your hidden corners of space and leave us alone? Then we will respect your decision, Yuna replied calmly. Humanity will withdraw to defend our own territory. We will not force our help on anyone who does not want it. But we will die, Drexen said bitterly. Without your ships and technology, the Council cannot stand against this threat. That is your choice to make, Yuna said. We believe in freedom, Ambassador Drexen. That includes the freedom to refuse our help. Thelva stood, interrupting the exchange. Ambassador Yuna, I have a question. If this alliance is formed, what does humanity gain? You already possess the strongest military in the galaxy. You need nothing from us. So why offer partnership at all? Yuna smiled. Because humanity does not wish to be alone in the universe, Ambassador Thelvas. We have been isolated for too long, fighting threats in the darkness while you lived in the light. We want friends, allies, trading partners. We want to learn from your cultures, share in your art and philosophy. We want to be part of the galactic community, not separate from it. The Voidborn threat gives us a reason to reveal ourselves, but connection is what we truly desire. The honesty of her response seemed to surprise many council members. Thelva saw calculations happening behind their eyes as they reconsidered their positions. Council Speaker Vexton called for the vote. One by one, the member species cast their decisions. Some voted immediately in favor, seeing the practical necessity. Others hesitated but eventually agreed, swayed by Yuna's words. A few voted against, clinging to pride and fear of change. When the final count was tallied, the alliance passed with an overwhelming majority. The vote is decided, Vexton announced. The Galactic Council formally recognizes the Terran Republic as a full member with equal status. Furthermore, we accept humanity's proposal for a unified defense force to combat the Voidborn threat. Now we must discuss command structure and operational details. The debate that followed was intense. Several species demanded that a council member should command the new allied defense force. Others argued for joint leadership. Ambassador Drexen insisted that giving command to humanity would be accepting their dominance. Finally, Admiral G1 stood to address the chamber. Council leaders, let me be direct. Humanity has been fighting wars for over 1,000 years. We have studied every conflict in galactic history. We know tactics, strategy, and logistics better than any other species in this room. If you want to survive what is coming, you need experienced leadership. That sounds like arrogance, Drexen snapped. It is not arrogance if it is true, Jiwan replied. But I understand your concern. So I propose this. Humanity will provide the Supreme Commander an overall strategic direction, but each Council species will retain command of their own forces. You will follow our battle plans, but your ships remain under your flags and your officers. Does that satisfy your pride while still giving us the coordination we need? After more debate, the compromise was accepted. Fleet Admiral Junho was appointed Supreme Commander of the Allied Defense Force, making him the first human to hold an official Council military position. The next 3 months were chaos. Human trainers spread across Council space, working with military forces that had never faced a threat like the Voidborn. Commander Donghyun spent weeks with the Veltharian fleet, teaching them new tactical formations. Captain Sora worked with the Saurian Federation, upgrading their ship systems. Specialist Hanul traveled between worlds, training communications officers on the quantum relay network that would coordinate the Allied forces. Shipyards across the galaxy roared to life, building new vessels to human specifications. The designs were simplified versions of human warships, less advanced but easier to construct and maintain. Human engineers supervised the construction, making sure quality standards were met. Admiral Junho established his headquarters on a massive station at the Galactic Rim, where the first defensive line would be formed. The command center was a marvel of coordination, with thousands of personnel from dozens of species working side by side. Thelvas visited the headquarters 4 months after the alliance formed. He found Junho on the main command deck, studying tactical displays that showed the positions of over 100,000 ships. Ambassador, Junho greeted him warmly. Welcome to Forward Command. What do you think? Thelvas looked at the display in awe. Human ships flew alongside Veltharian cruisers, Saurian destroyers, and vessels from every Council species. They moved in coordinated formations, practicing maneuvers that would have been impossible months ago. It is remarkable, Thelvas admitted. I did not think such different forces could work together so effectively. Everyone is motivated, Junho said. Fear is a powerful teacher. But so is hope. Your people and ours are learning that we are not so different. We all want to protect our homes and our families. An alert sounded across the command deck. A junior officer called out urgently. Admiral! Deep space probes are detecting the Voidborn Vanguard. They are entering the outer rim. Contact in approximately 6 hours. The command center exploded into controlled activity. Officers rushed to their stations. Communications channels opened to fleet commanders across the defensive line. Hunyo stood calmly at the center of it all, issuing orders with quiet authority. All ships to battle stations. Deploy forward reconnaissance elements. Activate the sensor grid and send a message to Earth. Tell Fleet Coordinator Yunji that it is time. Thelvas watched as the massive fleet began moving into position. The ships spread across thousands of kilometers, creating an interlocking defensive network. Human dreadnoughts anchored the line, their weapons powered and ready. Council vessels filled the gaps, their crews trained and prepared. Are we ready? Thelvas asked quietly. Junho looked at him with the confidence of someone who had prepared for this moment for years. We are as ready as we can be, Ambassador. The Voidborn are powerful, but they have never faced a galaxy that stands united. They have never faced humanity leading forces that fight for something greater than themselves. The hours passed quickly. Sensor readings showed the Voidborn Vanguard approaching, massive and terrible. The enemy fleet was larger than anyone had hoped, smaller than anyone had feared. They moved with alien purpose, consuming space debris as they advanced. All ships. This is Admiral Junho. The commander's voice echoed across every communications channel in the Allied Defense Force. In a few minutes, we will engage an enemy that has destroyed countless worlds. They believe we are weak, divided, and easy prey. They are wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in. We are the Alliance of Free Peoples. We fight not for conquest or glory, but for survival in the future. Every species represented here has something worth protecting. Family, home, culture, dreams. Today we show the Voidborn that this galaxy is not theirs to take. Today we show them what it means to face a united front. On the tactical display, the first Voidborn vessels entered weapons range. The battle was about to begin. All ships, Junho ordered, his voice calm and clear. Fire at will. Show them what we are made of. Space erupted with light and fury. Human rail cannons launched projectiles at relativistic speeds. Energy weapons from a dozen different species carved through the darkness. Missiles streaked across the void in glowing swarms. The Voidborn vanguard met the defensive line like a wave crashing against a cliff, and the cliff held. Thelvas watched the battle unfold on the command displays, seeing tactics he recognized from human training manuals executed perfectly by Council forces. The Alliance fleet moved as one, supporting each other, covering weaknesses, exploiting opportunities. When a Veltharian cruiser took heavy damage, a human destroyer moved to shield it. When a Saurian squadron broke through the enemy line, human fighters swept in to secure their flanks. It was not easy. Ships were lost, brave crews died fighting for their homes, but the line held, and slowly, impossibly, the Voidborn vanguard began to falter. "They are retreating," a tactical officer reported in disbelief. "The vanguard is pulling back," Admiral Junho nodded. "They are not used to resistance. They will return with more forces. But we have won the first battle. We have shown them that this galaxy will fight." He turned to address the command center, his voice carrying pride and determination. "Well done, everyone. Send casualty reports and damage assessments. We have work to do before they return. But today we proved something important. We proved that together, we are strong enough to protect our home." In the days that followed, news of the victory spread across civilized space. The Alliance had held against the Voidborn vanguard. Fear began to transform into cautious hope. Different species that had never cooperated before started sharing resources and knowledge freely. Old rivalries faded in the face of a common enemy. Thelva stood on the observation deck of the command station, watching ships from dozens of worlds moving together in the darkness. Junho joined him, two leaders from different species who had become friends through shared struggle. "Do you think we can win?" Thelvas asked. Junho considered the question carefully. "I think we have a chance. The Voidborn are powerful, but they are predictable. They rely on overwhelming force and consumption. We have intelligence, creativity, and the ability to adapt. Most importantly, we have something worth fighting for." He looked at Thelvas with a slight smile. "Humanity spent 1,000 years preparing for threats like this. We built our strength not to conquer, but to protect. Now we finally have the chance to fight alongside friends instead of alone in the shadows. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Thelvas nodded, feeling hope for the first time since learning about the Voidborn. Together. I like that word. In the distance, another wave of ships arrived to reinforce the defensive line. The war was just beginning, but the galaxy stood united, and for the first time in galactic history, every species knew they were not alone.